Hi guys, glad to see you again. Hope you are always healthy and happy. In this video we will discuss a film called Monster of Man. This film tells the story of robots with artificial intelligence who were sent to destroy a remote village. Some medical students and local residents tried to escape and survive the attacks of remote-controlled robots. Before we start, don't forget to click the like, subscribe and bell buttons if you don't want to miss the next video. At the beginning of the film, we see three people named Janes, Kruger and Fielding who were waiting for someone on the side of the road. Then soon came a car driven by a person named Bowler. Bowler immediately told them to get into the car and obey his orders. They were taken to a building which would be their headquarters. The three were assigned to operate the robot remotely so that the American military was interested in buying it. Fielding and Kruger then stayed in the room, and it turned out that their job is not only to navigate the robot but to install a combat program on the robot. Meanwhile, Bowler took Janes to a forest where there were several mines buried there. People living in villages near the forest laid mines to prevent anyone from entering their territory. It is known that their village was an opium-producing village which was heavily guarded by the militia. While installing some tools, the militia suddenly passed by. Bowler immediately told Janes to hide and emphasized to Janes that their whereabouts were not known to the militias. Later, 6 medical students were on their way somewhere. Suddenly, their car broke down, and like it or not they had to seek help from a nearby village. They continued their journey on foot. Janes and Bowler's job was done, and they returned to base. Janes, who was still annoyed with Bowler's treatment, was confused because the atmosphere was tense at the moment. The American CIA under Foster's and Major ordered them to send 4 robots in a plane to an area that was actually forbidden. Bowler, who heard this, began to act madly, and he started pointing a gun at Fielding to keep the 3 of them following his orders. The plane carrying the 4 robots finally arrived at their destination. Residents in the area were already feeling anxious because they heard the roar of the plane which was quite loud. Finally, the robots were deployed. However, it turned out that robot number 4 had failed and was damaged so that it could not be controlled. Meanwhile, the medical students had arrived at the village. They tried to ask a villager named Keela. Not knowing the language, a former Navy SEAL named Mason came to help. Knowing the whereabouts of the 6 students, the militia tried to expel them, and a commotion broke out. But in the end the 6 students were allowed to stay. Accidentally, Keela's child named Lynn playing in the forest with his friends met robot number 4 lying down. Lynn then took the robot's communication module. Instantly the robot wakes up and moves according to its own will. Immediately Lynn gave the module he found to the village leader. They didn't realize that the robots were already lurking. Janes and her friends realize that Bowler has gone too far, but they can't dodge because Bowler threatens. Inevitably, Kruger finally activated the combat mode on the robot. Immediately there was a gun battle between robots and humans. Children and women and medical students hid in the house. Mason himself tried to help those who were fighting robots with advanced weapons. Soon the robot knew their hiding place, and finally they had to leave the house. While helping the others out of the house, Mason has to return to get bullets and guns. He almost got shot. However, Bowler and the 3 robot controllers had time to recognize Mason's face as well as American military officers. They were confused by the whereabouts of Mason as well as the medical students. Finally, on the orders of Major, Mason was made as priority, while the others must be eliminated. Mason, who has been identified as a former US military officer, was considered a defector. Mason then ran while protecting Keela. While running, Mason was shot in the hand, but luckily he survived. Medical students have also caught up with Mason and Keela. Meanwhile, robot number 4, which moves on its own, began to enter people's homes. Inside the house, he saw a photo of Lynn and his mother. Suddenly a resident attacked a robot, but he was killed. The robot then found Angela's tablet and wanted to learn what is there, including medical science, by practicing it on the victim he just killed. Angela herself was seen running and being chased by one of the robots. He was caught, and his passport was taken by the robot, after which he was killed because the robot stamped on his head. Same thing happened to another student named Boa who was caught and brutally killed by another robot. Robot number 4 then managed to hack into Bowler's data in the control center. He also ordered the robot controllers to immediately protect the data file and activate the self-destruct mode on the robot. Unfortunately, it was not successful because the robot already has intelligence that exceeds humans. The robot now had advanced artificial intelligence due to an accident. Seeing this, Bowler finally removed all the cables on the robot control device. They then reset the robot, where the first robot will still attack humans, while the second and third robots will attack the fourth robot. Mason and the others were hiding, trying to get out of the hiding place. Mason picked up a landmine from the ground to distract the robot. When his attention was distracted, Mason and his friends immediately ran towards the back of the village. There he met other fellow students. Before long, the first robot came and immediately opened fire on them. Those with weapons attempted to fight back and the others remained hidden. Suddenly the robot grabs a student named Dash and almost shoots him in the head, but was thwarted by Mason, who immediately grabs him. Dash got shot in the ear and became deaf. The battle raged on again, and Lin tried to return the module he took from the robot. Keela, who saw it, did not want his son to be hurt and immediately protected him, but a villager came and shot at the robot. Unfortunately, the villager named Pratt was shot to death by the robot. Mason tried to help Lin and Keela by distracting them. Apparently Mason had set a trap with a landmine, and when the robot approached, Mason immediately shot the mine until it exploded. Mason then tried to destroy the robot. However, Bowler, who didn't want the robot to be destroyed in vain, activated self-destruction mode. The robot then explodes, but is not enough to kill Mason. Before he could protect his son, Keela was shot in the stomach. Mason didn't want Keela to leave him. Finally, the students tried to help the loser by stopping the bleeding. Meanwhile, a battle broke out between the third and fourth robots. The fourth robot managed to defeat the third robot, and when the third robot's hand got stuck in a tree, he used the opportunity to download all of Bowler's data. Seeing this incident, Bowler wanted to blow up the third robot, but unfortunately the fourth robot was smarter and took explosives from the third robot's body. Seeing the failed attempt, Bowler became frustrated. But it turned out that Foster, who was the American military commander, didn't want the fourth robot to be destroyed. Foster felt that the fourth robot could be a more advanced program for his benefit. Fielding, who couldn't stand it, tried to leave the base and report the incident to his partner. Unfortunately, Bowler found out about it and immediately went after Fielding. Despite running from the Bowler's pursuit, Fielding was finally caught and had to die at the hands of Bowler. Bowler, who knew that Fielding was in contact with his friend, ordered someone to eliminate the Fielding friend. He also told Janes and Kruger to change places because the possibility of the place was already known. Just out of there, the building that became their headquarters was immediately blown up. Meanwhile, Mason and the others survive by hiding behind large rocks. Mason then had the idea to climb over the rock so the robot couldn't reach them. Finally, one by one they climbed up using a rope. However, when the last person, Jordan, was about to climb, suddenly a robot came. Jordan immediately took a gun and tried to distract the robot. He tried to fight back by shooting the robot, even though he was desperate and was about to kill himself. Luckily, a friend screamed to distract the robot at last, and Jordan was able to climb over the rock from the other side. The robot also tried to climb the rock, but his attempt was thwarted by Lin, who threw a large rock from above to damage the robot. Bowler with Janes and Kruger have now moved to a bigger place, and they will install a new module on the third robot so that it can function again. Bowler threatened Kruger and Janes to hurt his family if they didn't follow his orders. Bowler finally went to the forest and installed a new module on the third robot. Mason and the others were now hiding in the cave, and Keela's injuries were getting worse. She was bleeding internally. Suddenly a second robot appeared who immediately chased them. Mason and Jordan tried to distract him. The robot was caught in the rocks in the cave and took the opportunity to escape. Unfortunately, the robot managed to escape and continued to chase Mason and his friends. While trying to escape, Dash felt that she couldn't run anymore, and finally Mason told the others to run first while he would protect Dash. However, it turned out that the robot continues to shoot at them and accidentally hits Wendy, even though her injuries were not serious. The second robot's bullets have now run out, but he was still chasing them. Mason was still trying to distract the robot, while Dash, who was supposed to be hiding with Lin, instead came out of hiding to go to his friends. Dash accidentally stepped on a mine to death. Lin, who was alone, was now an easy target for the second robot. Mason, who saw it, immediately tried to protect Lin. Unfortunately, he was instead attacked back, his leg was stepped on and his hair was grabbed by the robot. Unexpectedly, the fourth robot came and attacked, as well as downloading information from the third robot before destroying it. The fourth robot approached Mason and Lin thinking that the robot would hurt them. It turned out that the fourth robot actually asked why Mason was there and why he was so protective to his fellows. Mason and Lin said a few things about life and made the fourth robot think. However, suddenly a third robot came who immediately attacked the fourth robot. A fight ensued. Apparently Bowler was there too and was trying to attack Mason and the others. Mason tried to attack Bowler with a rifle while the robots were still fighting. Mason took the grenade that he brought and threw it at Bowler until it exploded. Bowler was still alive and he was going to shoot Mason instead. However, when he had a chance to shoot Mason, Bowler challenged him to a knife fight. Before the fight happened, the third robot held Bowler's leg because it was held by the fourth robot, so he could not move. Seeing this, Mason immediately tried to run with the others knowing that the robot would explode. After a while it turned out that the robot did not explode because Bowler paralyzed the robots using a stun gun. But suddenly the fourth robot blows itself up. Bowler was killed and Mason and his friends managed to escape. Major, who was the mastermind of the battle, felt that everything had failed and to eliminate his tracks he also blew up Janes and Kruger at his base. Mason and those who survived have arrived at another settlement and they could now breathe a sigh of relief because they were free from the chase of the robots after 3 days of fighting. And the movie ends how, it's quite fun, isn't it? If you like the summary of the film's story above, you can press the like button, subscribe and share with friends and family too. See you in the next video.